rolling here. Recording in progress. So describe what a hypothesis is, detail what an operational definition is, and how it applies to a hypothesis. Give an example of an operational definition. There we go. There we go. So you'll need to know this, especially moving on today, when we talk about an independent variable and a dependent variable. And we'll roll through different variables and how they obviously are included in a study and creating a study. And towards the end of class, I have an activity for you to complete, just labeling independent, dependent variables. All right. Christian, where's your iPad?
Left in my bed.
What? What good's it going to do there? Not a lot of good. Yeah. Man, oh man. Connor, who does LSU have this week? Really? That'll be a good game. Bo Nix and Bigsby. What's that? I don't even know what to think anymore. UCLA, like, are they good or not? Because UCLA beat LSU, but then they lost. Did they lose to Stanford? I think they got crushed by Stanford. It's crazy. I don't know. Notre Dame was good. Crushed Wisconsin. They were close with other teams. No. Guys excited for tomorrow?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we'll be there.
Yeah, you're gonna be on the line outside too.
Well, I guess I technically have to. I have to watch the dog. Bring my dog. My girlfriend coaches cheer there, so we'll promise to cheer and bring the dog. Gotta take the dog. What, Connor? I'm gonna root for you guys. Clearly. Huh? What do you want? She has to watch her cheerleaders. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you guys were hooting and hollering. No, I'm rooting for you guys, obviously. Oh, you guys see the new Venom movie? No? Going to see a new Venom movie? What? Why not? Allie, you going to see it? Oh, I'm going tonight. I'll make sure I ruin it for you tomorrow. I'm just kidding. I won't do that. It's pretty short. Did you see that? Yeah, it's not, well, not even. Unbelievable. I'm excited to see it though. Kiara, what were you saying?
I figured it out.
Yeah, okay. Need more time? Okay, one more minute. What's that? Yeah, go ahead. What the heck is that? All righty, so let's get to it here. Describe what a hypothesis is. What is it? What is it? Christian, what is a hypothesis?
Hypothesis, an educated guess that you test with experiment.
Yeah, good job. Good job. An educated guess. An if-then statement, right? So if this occurs, then this will be the result. So with Funk's hypothesis, what was it? You guys remember? What was Funk's hypothesis with clever Hans? Parker, do you remember? Funk's hypothesis with clever Hans? There you go. I remember.
Reaction to visuals. Like the horse, the rider was a better ruler, was the horse
Yeah, good job. So if Von Austin wasn't in the eyesight of clever Hans, then clever Hans won't be able to do math, right? Good job. All right, what about Emily Rose's experiment? Get those brooms out of the people's faces, right? Jeez. What is it? What is it? What was Emily Rose's hypothesis? You remember? Allison, you remember?
If the therapist can't see watching or touching or feel it, touching.
Yeah, good job. So if the therapeutic touch practitioner can't see what hand Emily Rose is hovering over top of, then they have a less than 50% chance of actually answering what hand she's hovering over top of correctly. Good. So the hypothesis, if then statement. And what is an operational definition? What does that mean? Haley, what's an operational definition?
Description is something.
Yeah, good job. So how are we going to measure our study? How are we going to measure these variables that are included? Okay, and we'll talk today about an independent variable, a dependent variable, maybe a confounding variable, right? Hopefully we'll get that far. And we'll discuss how our hypothesis, our study is being measured. Okay, so this operational definition, this is how we measure certain variables within our study. So what's an example of an operational definition? I know I went through some of them yesterday with you. What about IQ? How do you measure? What's the operational definition of IQ? Christian? Yeah, taking a test, right? Your results on an exam. Hopefully you do well, right? Yeah. So exam, good. What about height? What's an operational definition for height? Kiara? Feet or inches, right? Yeah, don't over exaggerate either. Yeah, so height, good job. Feet or inches, good. Is there any questions on the operational definition or hypothesis? You guys good with that? Yeah, all right. Terms for today. Terms for today. Oh, there it is. Okay. We got independent variable. We got dependent variable. We got random presentation. Hold on one second. Let's see how far I got here. Okay. I don't know how far we'll get. So I'm just going to give you these terms for now. And tomorrow I'll go over some of these if we don't get that far. Let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. Independent variable, dependent variable, random presentation, confounding variable, and controlled group. If we get to experimental group, awesome, but we'll see. I hope we do. Hope we do. Any other minute? Okay. All right, so independent variable, what do we have? Independent variable. What does that mean? Allison, what does that mean?
The experimental factor that can be
Yeah, good job. So whoever's performing this study can change or manipulate a variable in order to see an outcome. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so we'll talk about how Emily Rosa does this, and we'll talk about how Funks does this with his and their experiments, okay? So independent variable is like the cause or effect, right? This is the interchangeable variable, okay? This is something that the experimenter, okay, the person who's running the study, they change this variable, okay, in order to see the result or see a measured outcome, all right? Does that make sense, guys? All right, usually the independent variable comes first. Okay, we'll have an activity for you towards the end of class here where you can work on some of these examples of picking out an independent variable and a dependent variable, right? So if this occurs, if, you know, obviously, if, let's just say for Emily Rosa, if I hover over different hands, right, the left or right, okay, she changes that independently, right? She changes that, then this will be the result. Okay, dependent variable. What is the dependent variable? Parker, what's that? Yeah, good job. So this is like the measurement or the outcome. All right. So this is the response, the conclusion of your measurement, okay, of your study. Right. So the independent variable again is interchangeable. Okay, the experimenter changes this variable, okay, the cause or effect, and the dependent variable is the measured outcome. All right. So this is like the response from the independent variable. Good. What about random presentation? What does that mean? Andrew, what do you have for random presentation?
I have random presentation as a research method in which the stimuli is delivered in order that is based on chance that each individual component has the same likelihood of being judged.
All right, so randomization, right? We're making sure that these patterns aren't predictable and that whatever we're studying doesn't become easy for, let's say, the experimentee to pick up on. All right, so with Funk's randomization, okay, he was trying to come up with different mathematical equations where the horse, clever Hans, wouldn't pick up on. All right, or with Emily Rosa, she made sure that she flipped a coin to show what hand she was going to be hovering over. Right, she couldn't just do left, right, left, right, left, right, because maybe the therapeutic touch practitioner could pick up on it. Right? Does that make sense? Good. What about confounding variable? What does that mean, Noah? What's a confounding variable? Yeah, good job. So to try to make sure our study isn't biased, or maybe we don't get an outcome that we're not looking for or we're trying to achieve, confounding variables are variables that could maybe cause issues to our experimentation, that could alter our results, right? So with confounding variables, this could be really anything. I'll describe a few of them then eventually when we get to Emily Rose's experiment and Funk's. But for the most part, these are variables that could alter our results. Something that maybe we didn't think of, a variable that we weren't just understanding when we're performing our study that could alter our results, alter our measurement, our dependent variable. All right, control group, what is that? Control group. What do we have? Brady, what's a control group?
All the variables that see the
Yeah, good job. Good job. So when you're performing a study, let's just say they will receive the placebo, right? They won't receive the treatment. Okay, and we get to an experimental group, they receive the treatment. So you can decide and choose, obviously, who is receiving that treatment and who isn't. And you can make note, make observations, depending on who's receiving that treatment or not. But it's important that you establish these groups before you perform a study to see their reactions, to see their measurements, right? Their outcomes. Okay, good. Any questions, guys? Good. All right, so moving on here quick. I'm going to go over some of this information here with you today about control group, experimental groups, dependent, independent variables. All right, so number two, again, number one was making that observation. You're coming up with a question, you're asking a question, you're making predictions of what might occur. So you're creating your hypothesis. And now we're performing a controlled test. So independent variable, again, is a stimulus condition that the experimenter changes independently, right? So this experimenter is changing that stimulus, that variable, in order to receive a certain outcome, okay? In order to achieve that dependent variable, right? So independent variable, again, is the cause or effect. This is the interchangeable variable that is included within the study. And most of the time, you'll find the independent variable at the beginning of a hypothesis. So if independent variable, then dependent variable. Does that make sense, guys? Not all the time, but for the most part, you'll see that. All right, so independent variable in Rose's experiment, what do we think? What do you think the independent variable is in Rose's experiment? So Emily Rose's, what is she interchanging? What variable is she constantly trying to manipulate? Yeah, what hand she hovers over, right? Good job. Good job. So either she's hovering over the left or the right hand. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Pretty easy. Okay. And what about Funk's? What is he changing within his study to try to alter or try to obviously manipulate a variable? What is he doing? Kiara, go ahead. Okay, yeah. So if Von Austin is present in front of Clever Hans, so either he removes Von Austin from Clever Hans' eyesight, or he puts blinders right on Clever Hans, or he just leaves Von Austin in front of Clever Hans, right? So that is the manipulated variable. Where Von Austin is. Is he in front of Clever Hans? Is Clever Hans has blinders on, or is he just in front of Clever Hans? Make sense, guys? All right, so again, manipulated variable. This is something interchangeable that the experimenter performs within the study. Good, good. So like I mentioned, Emily Rosa, hers is, well, which hand am I hovering over top? Left or right? That's going to be interchangeable. Funk's, well, where's Von Austin at? Is he in the eyesight of Clever Hans or not? So that's how we can relate it to those two studies. All right, so eliminating patterns, randomization, so random presentation. Okay, so with random presentation, you want to make sure that your study does not have maybe tendencies, maybe something that the experimentee can pick up on, right? So you want to make sure that your study isn't predictable. Does that make sense? Okay, so with Emily Rose's experiment, how does she include randomization within her study? What does she do? What does she do? Is there like a method of what hand she hovers over top of? How does she know what hand she's going to hover over top of? Haley? What's that?
She-
Yeah, the coin, right? She flips the coin. Heads, she hovers over the left. Tails, she hovers over the right. Okay. So she flips the coin every time before she hovers over a hand. And that's how she is randomizing what hand she's hovering over top of. Good, good. What about with Funkst? How is he including randomization? With Clever Hans, how's he doing that? No, how do you think he's trying to include randomization within his study for Clever Hans? All right. Yeah, good job, good job. So he is including randomization by the mathematical equations, right? So he's making sure that they're random and that there's not a tendency there. So if he asks 2 plus 2, okay, the next one's not going to be 2 plus 3. The next one's not going to be 2 plus 4, right? He's going to try to have a random association with the equations that he comes up with. So to make sure it's not predictable and to make sure that Clever Hans isn't guessing what is going to be next, right? Good. So that's just explaining how randomization is included in Emily Rosa's experiment and Funk's. So again, the flip of a coin for Emily Rosa and for Funk's different mathematical equations. You guys good with that? Yeah, all right. So gathering data, dependent variable. So the dependent variable is this measured outcome, right? This measured outcome. So this is the response to certain study. Right? So we know the independent variable is interchangeable. This is something that the experimenter alters or changes in the study. Dependent variable is that measured outcome. So this is what the measurable outcome is of that study. So real quick, what is the dependent variable for Emily Rosa? What do you think? What is the measured outcome of her study? Christian, what do you think? Yeah, so it's the response of the therapeutic touch practitioner. It's like, left or right. Okay, plain and simple. Good, good. So dependent variable again is that measured outcome. What about for Funk's? Connor, what do you think for Funk's? What is the dependent variable for Funk's experiment with Clever Hans? What's the measured outcome for that experiment?
He was freezing.
Okay, all right. But what? So how does Clever Hans answer the questions? What does he do? Do you remember? Yeah, taps the hook, right? Good job, good job. So the dependent variable for Funk's, okay, experiment is how many times Clever Hans taps his foot, right? His hoof. Okay. That's his response to the mathematical equations. So measured outcome, hoof taps. Good. So a good way to remember it. So the IV independent variable. So if you see that in the activity, that's what it means. The IV independent variable. Dependent variable, DV. So independent, stimulus or cause, dependent, response or effect. Pretty self-explanatory. So it's important, especially with the independent and dependent variable, that you explain the interchangeable variable and that you explain the measurement of that study, of that variable, okay? So it's important that you explain it to a T, right? So like with Emily Rose's, it's with the therapeutic touch practitioners. If these therapeutic touch practitioners can't see what hand I'm hovering over top of, they won't be able to answer over 50%. Okay, they won't be able to answer correctly over 50%. So she's really explaining what her variables are, the measured outcomes, and the measured variables. So it's important to include that operational definition. All right, so confounding variable. So confounding variables are these variables that might skew our data, something that we don't think about at that time, okay, when we're performing our study. That could alter our measurements, alter our results. So with the confounding variable, what might this be with Emily Rosa? how could something like this alter our results here? What could happen? Just think of one. I'll give you a little bit of time. How about a minute or two to think of a confounding variable for Emily Rose's experiment and think of one for Funkst. What could alter the study that maybe Funkst didn't think about? What could alter the study that Emily Rosa didn't think about? So think of a confounding variable that alters the response, alters a dependent variable that maybe they didn't think of before when they're performing their test, their experiment. So I'll give you a minute. You can talk with a partner. Think of maybe confounding variables that we could talk about with these two studies. Could be really anything. There's many different confounding variables that you can include here. All right, so what are we thinking? What's a confounding variable in Emily Rose's experiment? What do you think? What could alter her data, alter her response? Brady, Connor, what do you guys talk about? Emily Rose's. Was it funny or something? What do you think? What's that?
You have this story yesterday.
A confounding variable?
Now the roads
Oh, yeah, you guys weren't here.
yeah.
Oh, you didn't see it. All right, Haley, Galen. No, you don't know? Okay, yeah. So maybe where these therapeutic touch practitioners, when they insert their hands, maybe the cutout is a little higher. So they could maybe see her shadow, right? They can maybe see her shadow, what's casted over from her hand, which they can then predict what hand or she's hovering over top of. Good, I like that one. What's another one you can maybe think of? Parker? For Emily Rose's? Huh?
Maybe like the national foul effect.
Yeah.
Maybe it was
Yeah.
secret.
Maybe they could see right through it. Yeah, good job. Or maybe the cardboard piece, right? Maybe the cardboard, you could see the shadow of Emily Rosa hovering over top of whatever hand. That could be a good example. Good. Maybe there's a window, right? Maybe there's a window in the in the place that they were performing the study, and a therapeutic touch practitioner just like look at the window, see what hand she's hovering over top of. Maybe, I don't know. Or a mirror, who knows? What about Funkst and Clever Hans? What are some confounding variables with these two here? What could alter or skew the data with these two individuals? What do you think, Kiara? Yeah, Clever Hans.
Maybe like making the same.
Without realizing, yeah, maybe. Good job. That's a good example. What's another one, maybe? Maybe there's someone else that understood the facial cues that was standing in the background, giving Clever Hans those facial cues. That could be a confounding variable. Good. So again, there's many examples that you could come up with which could alter your study. So it's important to note, you got to make sure you can try to exclude or try to push out these confounding variables from your study. Good. All right, real quick, validity is one goal when designing experiments is to ensure validity refers to the extent to which a test measures what is supposed to be measured. So there's certain examples of validity. You don't have to focus on all these examples here, okay? It's just to really know and understand that with testing and understanding our variables, it's important to note every single variable that we're trying to include within our study. Okay, what could maybe occur? What could maybe happen within our study that could skew our data or results? And to make it a valid experiment. So try to exclude any outside outcomes. try to exclude any confounding variables to properly define our operational definitions, to really state our independent variable, what's interchangeable. Maybe our responses to dependent variable. Think of every possible outcome or every possible response that could occur within this study, right? So last thing I want to go over here, you guys good with this? Yeah. Is just with the dependent variable Rose's experiment. We already went over it. It's the response of a therapeutic touch practitioner, left or right. And for funks, it is just simply a hoof tapping. You guys good? All right. So I'm going to post an assignment for you right now. You guys can work on, and you're just going to pick through these independent and dependent variables. Okay, let me put this up right now. I'll go through the first one with you so everybody's all on the same page and you understand how to do the activity. All right, so let me publish this for you. You can start working on it. You have enough time to work on it here. Get a lot of it done. All right, so independent, dependent variables. Again, we'll go through the first one together so we all know what we're doing. All right, number one, the more time people spend using social media, the less they read books. So independent variable. What do we have for the independent variable with this hypothesis? What do you think? What's interchangeable within this study here? What do we think? What do we think? Allison, what do you think for the independent variable? What's interchangeable for number one here? Okay, all right. So what about the time? So how about the amount of time using social media? So that's interchangeable. It depends how much time they're actually utilizing social media, right? So depending on how much time they actually access and use social media, that is our independent variable. So amount of time using social media, that's interchangeable, right? It could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour and a half, especially if you're a TikTok sensation, right? Dependent variable. What is the measured outcome here? Christian, what do you think? Yeah, the amount of books they read. Good job. So with the dependent variable, this is the measured outcome. Well, how many books do these people read, or how much of a book this person reads, depending on the amount of social media they use. You guys understand what I'm getting at here? All righty. So have this done, have this completed for tomorrow. We'll go over it tomorrow, but make sure you have it finished. I'll check them in the beginning of class tomorrow. All right, that's all I got for today. Any questions, Raven? You good?
No real questions, no.
All righty. See you later.
All right, see ya.